my studio. I'm Elisalex, and today I'm going to be showing you how to start growing your very own embroidered jeans garden. So embroidery is something that I've always really loved and kind of dabbled in and enjoyed and done a little bit here and there, but it's only recently that I feel like it's really started taking off for me and kind of consuming my thoughts and, you know, my lists of everything that I want to embroider. But it seems to be also one of those collective consciousness things, I think. You know, it's like everyone seems to be kind of jumping on the embroidery bandwagon. You know, it's on the high street, it's on the catwalks, it seems to be everywhere, which is really wonderful. And one of the things that I love most about embroidery is that it's so approachable. Even if you've never sewn anything before in your life, it's really not that hard. It's totally achievable to get yourself a needle, get some embroidery floss, you know, sketch a little design or copy a little design onto a pair of jeans or a shirt or whatever it is, and just start stitching. Just think of it as colouring in with thread. And for those of us who already do make our own clothes, I think the two marry so well together. It just adds another layer and more depth and just another way in which we can personalise and make what we're sewing that bit more unique and kind of like a signature, almost like a personal signature that you can add to your handmakes. So back to the jeans garden, pretty self-explanatory, but basically what I've been doing recently is I have been sewing florals, embroidering florals down onto the kind of growing out from the cuffs of my jeans, and I've been doing this kind of bit by bit. You know, like I don't really have an end date or a goal in mind. I'm just adding to it whenever inspiration strikes and whenever I feel like it, and I really love how that's creating something that's a kind of constant work in progress. And not only that, but I just love how it's turning out. I think it looks so pretty, and I can't even tell you how many compliments I've been getting on them. So I thought I'd show you how I'm doing it, and while I showed you how I'm doing it, we're going to learn how to do 3 of the foundation embroidery stitches. We're going to be doing stem stitch, which is this one here, which is obviously what I've used in green to do the stems. And then we're going to be doing satin stitch, which is what I've used for the heads of my little kind of dandelions, I suppose they are. And I've also used satin stitch for the centres of these daisies. And then the third stitch I'm going to show you how to do is the lazy daisy stitch, which is how I've done the petals on these flowers. And I'm thinking that this might end up being a kind of mini-series in a way. As I go adding to my jeans, I'll kind of check back in and I'll show you more stitches that I've been using and how they're kind of evolving, and maybe you guys can grow your very own jeans garden with me. And if you do, please tag me, please show me. Well, you know, get in touch and let me know and let me see. I'd love to see what you guys are all doing too. So just before we start, I'm just going to talk a little bit about what I've got and what you need. To start off with, I've got some special pens. This is what I use for drawing on my jeans and on my clothes when I'm getting ready to embroider. This one is a water erasable pen, which is the best really for embroidery, because it means that you can just kind of sketch your design on or trace your design on, and then if you make a mistake, the other end has a kind of an eraser basically, but also water gets rid of the blue of this pen, so you can just dip a paintbrush in some water and just kind of erase it if you make a mistake, or at the very end when you've finished embroidering, you can just go over it with a paintbrush with water or dab it with water and it just disappears. So that's amazing. The only problem with this blue one is the fact that it doesn't really show up super well on denim. So for that reason, I've also got this one, which is an air erasable pen. And it's purple, so that shows up much better on the jeans. The only problem is that there's air all around, obviously, so it actually, the colour fades really quickly on this one. So you kind of have to, you might find that you have to keep going over it. I also sometimes just use a regular pencil, which, you know, comes out in the wash, so that's probably not the best thing to use, but whatever, you know, it works. So then I've got my little thread snips, my little pink ones. Obviously you just need a pair of scissors to cut your threads. You don't need any specific, you know, tool kit or anything special for that. Any pair of scissors will do. And then I've got my embroidery flosses. These are I've already wound them onto my little plastic bobbins. These I use my favourite types of thread, my favourite brand of thread is DMC, and they've just got the most incredible selection. You literally couldn't possibly want for more. And you may have noticed on the dandelions that the orange kind of fades to yellow as they go around, and that's because it's called variegated thread, and throughout the length of thread it basically changes from kind of dark orange to lighter orange. And you can get variegated threads that change from like one entire colour and kind of ombre out into another colour completely. So yeah, I mean, when you get kind of in the world of all the little bits and pieces you can get, all the paraphernalia, all the silk threads and variegated threads and beading, and I mean all of it. Anyway, let's start simple. So embroidery floss, a pair of scissors, some pens to draw your design on, and of course a needle. If you're going to be embroidering onto denim, which is a fairly heavyweight fabric, then you need a sturdy needle as well. So I recommend about a size 3. I like using clover needles. They're my favourite, clover embroidery needles, and they usually come in packs that are kind of, you get like a selection, and they usually come in packs of like size 3 to 9, 9 being the finest for like really delicate work, and then 3 being slightly chunkier, sturdier, perfect for jeans and jackets and heavier fabrics. Alright, so let's start by sketching our flowers onto the jeans, and then we're going to get sewing. So here I've got my one leg that I've already done. I've done the front, and I've done my dandelions and my daisies. I've also started working on the back as well. And then on the other leg, I've also got a little bit on the front that I started working on, but the back of it is still blank. So I've still got plenty of stuff to kind of fill in, plenty of space to fill in. So I'm going to start by carrying on work on this side here. Alright, so I'm going to start by mapping out my design with the air erasable pen, which, as I mentioned, it doesn't really show up that well, and it kind of evaporates pretty quickly. So I'm going to go over my design a few times just to kind of help it stand out. You could obviously use your water erasable pen or a soft leaded pencil, anything you want really. Just make sure that it will come out in the wash. So the first stitch we're going to do is the stem stitch. I've threaded up my needle and made sure that it is knotted at one end. So I really want to make sure that the flowers look like they are coming out kind of from underneath the cuff to give it that kind of jeans garden feel. So I'm going to go in from the wrong side and bring my needle out to the right side, right at the bottom of my stem like this. Now the stem stitch is really similar to the back stitch, except instead of lining up our stitches one on top of the other, we're going to go in with our needle up the stem, come back out a couple of millimeters further up, and then we're going to come back overlapping our last stitch, going ever so slightly to the right of that first stitch, going in with our needle and then coming back up again further along the line of our stem. And then again we're going to go back on ourselves, but going just to the right of the previous stitch, kind of in the center, overlapping it, so we get this nice kind of slightly twisted, kind of ropey, feathered stem effect, essentially. So we're just going to keep doing that all the way to the end of our stem. And so that's that. Now we're going to do the satin stitch, so I'm changing to my orange variegated thread for this one. So I've got my needle all threaded up, and again I'm going inside the jeans so I can put my needle in from the wrong side. And I'm going to come up just there in the center of my dandelion, like that. And I'm going to use my pen here just so that I can redefine the shape of that a little bit, because it's starting to fade already. And then the satin stitch basically is a series of kind of long flat stitches that we use to kind of colour in a kind of larger area of fabric. So I'm going to take my needle and put it in at the outer edge of the dandelion and come right back out right next to that original stitch. And yank it through. And you can see that first straight stitch in there. So I'm going to basically be lining them up right next to each other and going around and around to create my dandelion. So I'm going back in at the outer edge and coming back in next to it. Second stitch and going around and around and around like that. And when you're finished, it should look a little something like this. We've got the dandelion and the stem, and it's looking lovely. So now I'm just going to turn my jeans out to the wrong side here so I can show you how I tie off my thread. So you end with the thread obviously to the wrong side of your fabric, and then you want to put your needle into one of the stitches just near where your thread came out. Pull it through, but not all the way. You want to leave a little loop so that you can then put your needle back through like that to create a little knot essentially. And you can do, I usually do that twice just to make sure it's nice and secure. And then from there you can just snip it, and that's that. I also need to tie off my my green thread here, but actually I've kept my green thread long because after having done the stem stitch I'm now going to use it to do the leaves. And I'm just going to do the leaves, the little kind of small leaves there on the side of the stem in satin stitch as well, just in a very, very similar way to how I did the dandelion, just by going in and out and essentially just using the thread to colour in the shape of the leaves, just with long flat stitches like this going in and out. It only takes about 4 or 5, and then you're going to tie it off in exactly the same way and you're done. So now we're going to start doing the daisies that we've got climbing up the leg. And I'm going to take my air erasable pen again, and I'm just going to mark out the locations. So I want it kind of all, you know, kind of snaking, creeping as naturally as possible, climbing up the leg. So I'm just marking out the centres here. And again, this air erasable pen is kind of annoying. It keeps air erasing itself before I've even had time to start embroidering. So I'm just going to have to keep going over it a few times to get that definition. And so now I've got my thread, and I'm going to use the satin stitch again, and I'm just going to do small stitches this time, not nearly as long as the dandelion stitches, but just little ones going back and forth to colour in those little circular centres for my daisies. So now that I've done a few stitches horizontally, now I'm going to actually go back into it and do a few more satin stitches vertically and crossing over it, so that I get a little bit more, just a bit more texture really. This way it will really pop and really stick up and have a bit more of a kind of 3D effect. So it's literally just a few horizontal satin stitches followed by a few vertical satin stitches just to go over it and kind of poof it up a little bit. And from there I'm just going to go straight ahead and start doing the centres of my other 2 daisies before I start working on the petals. So now that I've got my daisy centres, I'm going to start doing my lazy daisy petal stitches around the outside. I've got my white thread all threaded up for this, so what we want to do is you want to come up with your needle right near the centre, right by that little kind of pink centre there, and then you go in next to it, right where you came out, and come up a little distance where you want your petal to end. So essentially lazy daisies are a series of different chain stitches. So to do that we then wrap the thread around the needle and bring it all the way through. So we've got our first little chain stitch petal there, and then we need to anchor it or couch it into place by then bringing the needle back in just to the outside of that first petal. So that one little tiny stitch essentially holds that petal into place. And then I'm coming straight back out again in the center, ready to start my second petal. So it looks lovely. Yay! So again, you want to put your needle back in right next to where you came out and bring it out again where you want the edge of your petal to be. Wrap the thread around your needle before you bring it all the way through. Then pull it all the way through so you have your little petal, and then you want to couch it into place and then bring your needle again back into the center, ready for the next petal. And you just want to do that all the way around. You can make it as dense as you want or as spread out as you want. It's totally up to you. Petals can be as long as you want or as short as you want. It's completely up to your own personal preference. And so now I'm just going to carry on doing the other 2 daisies, and when you're finished you'll have something that looks a little bit like this. So there you have it. I hope you can see how simple it is to start embellishing your own clothes using embroidery. I will be checking back in again when I've done a little bit more and showing you some more stitches and showing you how it's all evolving. And like I said, please, if you do start growing your own jeans garden, then please definitely tag me on Instagram or put a little comment down here. I'll put all the links to everything I've mentioned and to all my various social media links and all that kind of stuff in the description below. So please do get in touch. I really would love to see what you guys are making as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope I will see you guys all back here again very soon.